incarcerated now than were enslaved in 1850.
They are thugs, criminals and thugs. Isn't it the right word?
I'm thinking thugs is
Say
not
you're a
far off
cocaine
the mark.
dealer, and you kind of look like
calling
one.
them thugs, just call them.
It's not MSNBC, it's not CNN, it's not Fox News. We have to get to it.
So, all you scared to death Negroes,
More black men.
Welcome to the first episode of Revolt Black News. Last week we did a state of emergency, bringing awareness to the alarming disparities of the coronavirus pandemic and how it's affecting communities of color. And I thought it was important to keep this thing going for the culture. I've been planning Black News for a long time now. And what better time to start than now? I need us all to get the real information. Hear what we can do firsthand to help attack this thing head on. We have to take this thing seriously. And that's why I'm doing this. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. Health is wealth. So let's get right to it. I'm going to pass it to my brother, Van Lathan. Let's go.
I appreciate you, Puff. Like you said, we are in an unprecedented time in terms of our health, both mentally and physically in America right now. We don't know when it's going to end, how it's going to end, but we do know that we want to live to see it through. So the talk that we're going to have today is going to give you guys solutions and tools how you stay healthy through this pandemic and make sure that your loved ones and people around you are healthy as well. Like Puff said, I'm Lathan, and we are going to get right to it by introducing the lovely panel that is joining us. Now, if you're going to have a conversation about public health, the responsible thing to do is to start with doctors. The doctor I'd like to introduce, as far as part of our panel, is Dr. Bernard B. Ashby, a highly rated cardiologist in Miami Beach, Florida, who has been in practice for approximately 11 years. Dr. Ashby, along with some of his medical colleagues, have started a campaign called #MaskOn. You can see the brother with his mask on right there, right now, in an attempt to reach the younger generation to build awareness, solidarity in our community. So there's Dr. Ashby. We also have Safiya Lyn, who is a medical director at Mount Sinai Medical Center, freestanding emergency department in Aventura, Florida, with over 8 years of experience. How are you, Dr. Lyn?
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to join this evening. I appreciate it.
So, first question of the day, Dr. Ashby, you are a cardiologist. You know all about the inner workings of the body, obviously. So people out at home know, why don't you tell a little bit about how COVID-19, the effect that the virus has on the immune system and on the respiratory system. What exactly is the danger?
So, yeah, I'm gonna take off the mask because I just want to kind of normalize this. So there you go.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, excellent. So basically, the COVID virus, the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2 virus, is virus part of the coronavirus family, and it was discovered in Wuhan, China, sometime in November of 2019. And basically, this virus attacks the respiratory system directly, but it's a systemic disease, basically, and that's why they call it COVID-19. So COVID-19 is actually a disease caused by the virus. And the reason why I became interested was because the receptor that it attaches to as the ACE2 receptor, which I'm trying not to get too technical, but it's a receptor that's involved in heart disease. But this is also the same receptor that the virus uses to get inside of the lungs or the cells, actually. And basically what happens is when the virus infects you, it causes an inflammatory response. And the patients do poorly because the lungs become fluid-filled and filled with debris, and it basically impedes your ability to oxygenate. And that's why you hear all the talk about ventilation, because eventually if a patient gets too ill and develops a significant pneumonia, they are unable to do any oxygen exchange and require ventilation.
So I'm from South Baton Rouge, Louisiana, okay? My neighborhood where I'm from is no stranger to hypertension. My father himself suffered from hypertension for a great many years. That hypertension has now turned into congestive heart failure. We've been dealing with that as a family for about the last 10 years. He is a cardiac patient. What specific danger are cardiac patients in from COVID-19? We know that a large portion of our community disproportionately suffers from cardiovascular complications. How does the virus affect them, and what's going on with their hearts?
So great question, great question. And again, this is why this gave me goosebumps when I heard about the virus, because the very same risk factors that cause people to do poorly with this virus are the very same risk factors that I deal with on a daily basis. So conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, morbid obesity in particular, and even asthma are all related to my field, essentially. And basically, what happens with this particular virus, again, the receptors that it uses is very similar, actually the same receptors used in cardiovascular disease processes. And when these patients become sick, they decline pretty quickly. And unfortunately, our community, we're disproportionately affected by those conditions like diabetes, like hypertension, like obesity. And especially if it's uncontrolled, those patients tend to do poorly. And essentially, we were a total setup for this condition, or actually for this disease to do us pretty much a lot of harm. And so you mentioned that your family has a history of hypertension. And essentially, hypertension is very common in our community. A lot of folks are uncontrolled and have no medical care. And as a result of that, they're a total setup for this virus.
So, Dr. Lyn, we're here now. We're aware of the pre-existing conditions that exist in some of our communities. We can't change those. There's no magic switch that we can flip in order to make us more prepared for what is upon us right now. What are some of the things that Black and brown people, all people, but of course our community is foremost in our hearts, what are some things that we can do to boost our immune systems to fight against coronavirus now that it's here?
Excellent question. So what are some of the things we can do to boost our immune systems to help us fight the corona COVID-19 virus? As Dr. Ashby explained, it's a virus that primarily affects the lungs. What's important to understand about this virus is it's not seasonal. This is going to be here. This is year round at this point. We don't understand if there's a beginning and an end, unlike influenza, which prominently from October to April, right? So this is not a seasonal pandemic, not related to weather or climate. The main thing that we have to do is protect ourselves. Those with pre-existing conditions are more susceptible to severe disease process. It hits those harder. If you have diabetes, if you have hypertension, it's going to hit you harder. Some of the signs and symptoms you want to watch for are fever, greater than 100.4, fatigue, tiredness, a dry cough, upper respiratory symptoms, diarrhea, and then also loss of smell and taste and shortness of breath have been accompanied with these symptoms, right? Remember, COVID-19 has an incubation period, which is a period in your body before you manifest any of these symptoms. That's about a 5-day window. And it's recently been discovered that you are able to transmit the virus even though you are not, quote unquote, exhibiting symptoms, right? So that 5-day window is super important to follow the guidelines to continue to quarantine. What is quarantine? Quarantine looks different for everybody. I have people in households that live in households of 6, 7, or 8 people in a 3-bedroom apartment, right? Even less confining spaces. How are you going to use one entire room to yourself while the rest of the family is cramped? Oftentimes in the emergency department, I diagnose and test people for COVID-19, and then I tell you, go home and quarantine. Me telling you to go home and quarantine is putting exposure to your entire household, right? So we need to be sensitive and logical in that thought process. Now I'm coming back with 6 more people who are infected just by virtue of you being in the same airspace and sharing the same air as them, right? So that's not an easy thing to do. Quarantining is a privilege, right? You have to have multiple rooms in the house to isolate yourself in one room by yourself. That's very hard to do in overcrowded spaces. One thing I want to emphasize in terms of prevention is when you quarantine, try to be as isolated as possible in your own area without having family coming in and out of that space. Consider purchasing a pulse oximeter. What's a pulse oximeter, right? It's a little thing that you place on your finger. A small device, about $25, and it measures the oxygen saturation in your blood. This is important because criteria for being admitted to the hospital means you have to have an oxygen saturation of less than 92%. You and I having this conversation have oxygen saturation of about 96, 97 or more. The goal is 100%. When your oxygen saturation diminishes to less than 92%, you are at higher risk for needing supplemental ventilation, as Dr. Ashby described, whether that's being intubated, whether a nasal cannula with oxygen, all of those things might be required and might need you to be admitted. One other thing you can do at home is an accurate thermometer.
Fantastic information. We're going to get some other voices in here. And just real quick, just so everybody knows, in the interest of time, we're going to make sure that we're bouncing around and we're just be a little bit more concise and aware of your answers. That's fantastic information, everything that you gave us. But I want to make sure that we get a couple of other voices in here too. We have somebody right now, Nick Cannon, who recently dropped the trailer for a fantastic documentary about an alternative. Excuse me, we do not have Nick Cannon, I'm sorry. I want to move on to Koya Webb so we could talk a little bit about non-traditional medicine and some of the things that we can do outside of you guys' expertise to kind of keep us healthy. Now, Koya is a recognized yoga instructor, a health coach, and vegan activist. Koya, how important is it for us, and this is a question that I have personally for myself, when the pandemic first happened, I went out to Walmart and bought every terrible thing that you could possibly eat. Cookies, cakes, pies, snacks, Little Debbie, Hostess, Twinkie, whatever it is, bought it all. And it wasn't until about a week into it that I realized I was harming my chances of being successful against a public health disaster by consuming all of those things. Talk to us a little bit about the way our diets are going to be able to influence our abilities to stay healthy during this time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your transparency because I grew up off honey buns, Twinkies, oatmeal cream pies, and things like that, chips and milks. But the thing is, we have to realize the power of life-changing foods. And those life-changing foods are fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And so we have to understand that we have those fruits, the vitamin C, the vitamin A in leafy green vegetables, all of those things are going to give us the health and boost our immune system like we need to make sure we do not catch COVID-19. And if we do catch COVID-19, to make sure that we heal from it. One of the most important things is this. What does this look like? This is a walnut. It looks like a lung. We should be eating a handful of walnuts every single day. This is really good to really heal the lungs and make the lungs nice and strong. That's what it looks like. Our healing is in fruits and nature that comes from God. So you have the fruits, apples, oranges, bananas, pears. We all can get access. If you can get access to fruits, get those fruits just as well as the non-perishables. Try to stay away from so much processed food. So get you some fruits, get you some vegetables. Yes, spinach and kale, but also get asparagus. Go ahead and get some red leaf lettuce. It's good for you. All the greens are good for you. And then whole grains like quinoa, chickpeas, lentils, those things. And I say you can have a fruit bowl for breakfast, have a nice big salad for lunch, and for dinner, have a complex carbohydrate of quinoa, lentils, chickpeas with some vegetables and some salsa, and make sure you're eating a whole foods diet, because these foods are going to not only help heal from all of the things we're already experienced, but it's going to help protect us from COVID-19.
Amazing. So Dr. Ashby, we have a situation where people are sheltering in place. They're in their homes. Kalika, babe, could you plug the computer up? Sorry about that. We have a situation where people are sheltering in their homes. They are more sedentary than they've ever been. They're afraid to go outside. They're afraid to walk. And because of this, from a cardiovascular situation, they're not getting as much exercise to their hearts as they might have been. What are some of the things that people can do to make sure that their cardiovascular output remains optimal, that they don't lose their wind, for better or worse, while they're at home.
So that's an incredibly important question. I appreciate that. And Ms. Webb's points about the diet are incredibly important because you really got to arm yourself for this condition. And as I mentioned earlier, we're a total setup for this condition because we're predisposed to cardiovascular disease and the risk factors, so hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol. And so diet and exercises are key. So first of all, just because you're on, isolation or we're practicing social distancing doesn't mean you can't get out. I actually do encourage folks to get outside. Now, because a lot of folks do live in urban areas, it is difficult to social distance. But if you can get outside and maintain a 6-foot distance from someone, I encourage that you go to a park, get on a sidewalk, move your body. Because if you can move your body up to a mile a day, that will go a long way in decreasing your risk of heart attack, stroke, but more importantly, decrease your risk of having a poor outcome from the COVID-19 disease. Also, in addition to moving your body outside, you can do calisthenics inside. There's a lot of folks that have dope programs on YouTube. You can do a quick 10-minute, 15-minute HIIT workout because the higher your heart rate is, the more sweat you produce, the more cardio you do, the better off you are. And again, that will go a long way in protecting you. And that's in addition to the diet. So, just because we're on quarantine or social isolation does not mean that you cannot improve your health, because really that's going to be the determining factor for a lot of folks between life and death.
Koya, something else is happening specifically with me, and I know with a lot of other people that are going through this. I am this week. I went back on my Lexapro, and I had to get prescriptions for anti-anxiety medications represcribed because the walls of my home felt like they were closing in on me. I didn't see an end in sight. And that in and of itself led to me not sleeping, led to me not functioning, led to me mentally falling apart. There's a whole different monster that is involved when everyone is sick at the same time. And that is the mental aspect of this. You are a motivational speaker, a health guru. What can we do to keep our stress levels down? There's only so much Instagram Live we can watch. So what can we do to make sure our stress levels are down while this is all happening?
Thank you for sharing your story. I think we all are experiencing different levels of stress and anxiety. One thing that is really important is the breath. The breath is spirit. It is the energy that we get when we enter this world, and it's what we won't be doing anymore when we leave. So we can use the breath to regulate our nervous system. So when we start looking at too much news or we get in a fight in our family, just sitting down in a quiet place and taking a deep inhale and slow exhale. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. If you just do that, I just felt chills all over my body. You're breathing oxygen into the body. What happens when we're stressed, it's long periods of time without breathing, without taking full breaths, and our body gets tight, and that stress goes into our body, and it actually causes all types of illness. Another thing you can do is meditation. I have free meditations all over. There are lots of free meditations all over the internet. Putting your headphones in when you had a conversation and breathing is not working, put those headphones in, listen to meditation, listen to music that brings you joy. I like telling people, get you a love bank, write down a list of 10 things that bring you joy, put it in your jar, and every time you feel frustrated, angry, fed up, pull out a piece of paper and do something to bring you joy. There might be dancing to your favorite song, your Beyonce, your Lizzo, whatever it is, but just do something to get your spirits up, because none of us are immune to anxiety. None of us are immune to fear, but we have to learn how to use it better and use it to really help us sit down and think. I think writing, if you can start a journal with how you feel, that'll also help you process stress.
Thank you, sister. All those things are incredibly helpful, and personal wellness is going to be very responsible for people to keep up with while this time is going on. We also have with us, actually, one of my favorite lyricists of all time, Styles P. Now, Styles P, we all know Styles P from his amazing career that he has had and that continues in hip hop, but he also is a juice bar owner. I remember the call I got from my brother some years ago, and he was like, yo, did you know that Styles P opened up a juice bar? And I was thinking about, you might be thinking about a different Styles P. Like, you know, it was amazing to see your transformation and evolution into healthy living. The name of the juice bar is Juices for Life, BK. Styles, I want to ask you a question right now. Number one, you're seeing what's going on. You've been talking about eating to live, juicing for life for a while. How do you see the relationship between the nutrients that go into your body and your ability to stay both mentally and physically ready to fight the coronavirus? Is there? Oh, excuse me, and not to be to remiss if I didn't say that Styles P also owns this with his wife Adjua. I'm so sorry, sister. Look, she's mad at me. She's frowning at me right now. I'm so sorry. She's standing right there with them. It's beautiful as ever. So yeah, you guys own the juice bar. Talk a little bit about the relationship between what you guys specifically do and overall wellness.
Well, what we do is we realize we are brown people from a brown community, and most of us wasn't raised or taught to eat right. We don't look up the things that affect our body, like both of the doctors were saying. And it's like we kind of misinformed when it comes to the hood. So we felt it was our job as people in the hip hop industry and still being connected to people, try to explain to people how much the things you put in your body are actually gonna affect you. Like I felt like my whole life changed when I changed my diet, when I started eating plant-based and I start juicing and I start treating my body like a temple. I felt like everything, I still have a lot of things to work on, but one, I was overweight. I suffered from sinusitis, post-nasal drip, eczema, anxiety, bad temper, even a bit of rage. You know what I mean? I felt like the diet and just, as the Dr. Webb was saying, I think it just changed my whole outlook. My wife made sure I started incorporating greens and kale in my diet, and
Just greens overall.
just all around greens. I started eating greens, eating fruits, and just paying attention to the changes that were coming about. And then really thinking about it from a hip hop point of view. When you're in hip hop, it's a braggadocious sport. It's more like I have more than you. I drive this car, I live here, but we know more poor people than we know rich people. And brown people, we don't have enough health insurance. We don't go to the doctor enough. When we do go to the doctor, things happen. Sometimes we get scared. So we just try to say, work on your own body first.
Well, our thing is, we try to convey that we should hold ourselves as doctors to a regard. We personally do that, and through trial and error, we were able to see that we're able to target the core issues of the problem versus putting a Band-Aid on the issue and weakening the immune system. So this was the crucial element, I would say, to Juices for Life and what we stand for, because it's about targeting and building the immune system versus breaking down the immune system and masking the issue. So through whole foods and through wheatgrass that's high in vitamin A, B, C, and K, and microgreens, which is 40 times the nutrients versus standard amount. Through all these elements and all these foods, and we incorporated all these grains and so forth, we were able to see that through just building the immune system, even when we do have an issue, it just comes to pass very easily. Like it doesn't, hence
Doesn't
this
fester.
issue he had in January.
Right. Doesn't say about it. Yeah. Now, a partner in Juices for Life BK with you guys is 1/3 of, the culture's biggest radio show, morning radio show, Angela Yee. She is here with us as well. Angela, you number one, what made you decide to get involved in juicing, and what positive effects have you seen in getting rid of processed food, processed fruits and vegetables, and getting whole things, whole juices into your body? Has it changed your health in any way?
Well, it was something that I felt like I had to do because waking up so early every morning is tough on your body. Like I never felt like I was getting enough sleep. there was a lot of excuses I was making why I wasn't going to exercise because I was so busy. So I feel like because I couldn't do everything I needed to do for my health, I could at least eat right. That was one thing that I could control, and there was no excuses when it came to that. And so in the morning in particular, like waking up at 4 o'clock, going to work, I'm not a big breakfast person, but I needed to have something to give me some energy. So that's when I started juicing. But when I first started, I wasn't doing it right. Like I was going to, one of those chain places where everything was pureed and putting a lot of sugar. So it was a process of learning for me. And then when I read about Styles P and him doing his juice bar, I definitely ran up on him and was like, I want to do something like this in Brooklyn. And I thought it would be great for the community. I just think about how I was raised. And when I was younger, I didn't like vegetables. I didn't necessarily like fruits. It just had a bad rep. And so it's nice for me when I see kids coming into the juice bar and like they're like, I want this out when it's like a treat for them. And really when I certain things out of my diet, it's just made me realize, how nasty it was. Really, like I stopped eating processed meats, no cold cuts, none of those things.
Right. And I want to stay with one more question for you, if that's okay. This is actually for you and for Styles, for the whole the whole family. How important was it for you guys to offer healthy alternatives to other communities? Because to be honest with you, I was 26 before I knew what kale was. So I like where I'm from, that wasn't a big thing. So like, was there a bigger mission? And anyone can answer, but we're just gonna take one answer and we're gonna move on a little bit. Anyone can answer. What was the intentionality of opening it in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood where people from the community could access it?
Well, at Juices for Life, our all-around intention is that a lot of brown people are just misinformed. We don't eat right, as the other doc was saying. There's a lot of pre-existing conditions we have because we are not eating right. A lot of disease starts in the gut, and as brown people, the easiest way to knock us off is through food, water, and misinformation. So it's our duty to kind of make it like we at war. Like you hear that on the news, they're speaking of war terms right now, and we are actually the victims. And as brown people, we just have to pay attention to what we put in our body and do the best we can. And as my wife was saying, you have to take accountability for your own body and see what's going wrong before you just up and run to the doctor. You have to say, have I done everything right for my temple? So we just try to spread that word in the hood and pretty much for all folks.
Okay, so we actually do, I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. We actually do now have Nick Cannon joining us. There's our brother, Nick Cannon. Surprised he's not actually, it's my homie Nick Cannon. I'm surprised he's not actually hosting. He's taking every other job that's possibly out there for everybody. Nick, you took up a very important mission. Our brother, rest in peace to this man, Nipsey Hussle, was producing a documentary on one of the pioneers of alternative medicine, Dr. Sebi. Nip was not able to see that through to fruition because we lost our brother before he got a chance to get it to the finish line. You took that mantle up, just released a trailer. The documentary is forthcoming. It's interesting. That is a different non-traditional medicine, but you also have an autoimmune disease that I would imagine requires you to take traditional medicine into account too. You're talking about your personal health. Talk a little bit about what you learned during that documentary and about the marriage between traditional and non-traditional medicine.
Absolutely. Greetings, everybody. Health and wellness, favor and all of that good stuff to everybody. But first and foremost, I always, you kind of then encompassed it in, two great questions, and I'll try to bring it all together. But I always say that I think Plato said something like human behavior flows from three sources: from desire, emotion, and knowledge. And that really is what happened to me in 2012 when I was diagnosed with lupus nephritis, is that I didn't know nothing about it. I thought I was healthy, like a lot of us, because, go to the gym or, we ain't, some of us don't like to go to the doctor. So we brag, man, I ain't been to the doctor in years. I'm healthy. But that hit me in a crazy way when I was diagnosed with lupus nephritis from having, acute kidney failure and then all of these other things. I had to instantly start to learn about my body. And I had to learn what medicines work for my body, because a lot of these physicians that I was dealing with didn't know why my condition was occurring. I mean, it wasn't hereditary. It wasn't something that they saw that was in my diet. And then on the other end, you know, I had so many people from the alternative medicine side speaking to me about, you know, mainly my diet and the things I can do without medicine. So I had to, you know, listen with both sides of my head. And I had, you know, one ear I had, you know, holistic teachings and everything from my family background. And the other ear I had people saying, yo, if you want to live, you know, in the next year or so, these are the medicines, the pregnant zones, the myfortics, you know, a lot of these things that are keeping my body going. And when dealing with the autoimmune condition, it truly is something where your immune system is out of whack, acting as an enemy to your body instead of a protector. So I had to learn a lot of stuff fast, man. And, you know, instantly they put me on what was called a renal diet, which is extremely like intense. But now, you know, I'm no longer on that. But that's like no processed food, no sodium, no vitamin K, nothing green. Like, it was so intense. And I did that for about a year. So I would say, like, everything that everybody's learning and going through now, man, I kind of say welcome to the party, because I've been living this way since 2012. And you know, I've never been a germaphobe or someone that operates out of fear, but it's all about awareness and understanding at this point. And you can live longer than, you know, I believe I'm healthier now than I ever would have been before my diagnosis.
And that's
fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister, not to cut you off.
No, I was just saying that's what it's about at the end of the day, the education, you know, because you can't unlearn it, you know?
And that's our biggest problem. We all kind of misinformed or don't have enough information. Like say for instance, right now, all of us on here, it should be a lot more hits, but it's not TikTok, it's not live, it's not. You don't get a lot of credit and glory for it. So a lot of people don't really take it serious until they actually in a situation. So this is a fight we have to fight, all of us. Like this has to be constant, because a lot of us are misinformed, and it's way more misinformed than informed.
Indeed.
Koya, we talked a little bit about some things that you can do throughout the course of the day and some practices that you can have in order to manage your stress. There's one specific time for me that's the most stressful, and that is when I wake up in the morning. That seems to be when the ball of anxiety is there. That's when I call my mom and talk to them and stuff like that. What are some things that you can start your day doing in order to make sure that you lower your stress load throughout the rest of the day? You wake up, the first thing you get is an update about death and new cases and hospitalizations and intubations, and you want to run and put all of that in your mind. How do you manage staying informed about what you need to know out there in the world, and not running yourself crazy?
That's such a great question. And I think we all are guilty of sometimes picking up the phone. I know I am picking up the phone to check in. But I would say when you go to sleep, put your phone in the other room or plug it up. Also, put it on airplane mode. You don't need 5G or Wi-Fi running while you're sleeping. It's good to have most electronics out of your room just to lower the amount of radiation. And then you want to make sure that when you wake up, you want to wake up in gratitude. I tell people, like, I go outside and like, I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my breath. So making you a gratitude list of what you're grateful for. Maybe something happened special that day. Maybe you got some good news the day before. Just expressing gratitude will shift your mood and start your day really nicely. And also movement. I do yoga. Some people can take up yoga, start the yoga, the breath work, the meditation I mentioned. But if you're not into that, you could just stretch, move your body, get the blood flowing. That's going to help release stress and tension from your body. It's also going to boost your cortisol. It's going to boost your happy hormones and lower your cortisol levels, which actually causes more stress and more things that we don't want. So when you move your body, you move your blood, you actually start to feel better, you energize yourself. So just movement in the morning, write a gratitude list, and just start the day in a happy mood.
Yeah. Speaking of starting the day, millions of us, Angela, we start our day with you. We start our day listening to you and Envy and Charlemagne talk about all kinds of different issues within the culture, outside the culture. They get us talking, they get that trend that, normally while we're at work or wherever else we are, we talk about those things. Talk about the pivot in coverage that you guys have had to make for your audience. Did you guys feel a specific responsibility on the Breakfast Club to do more things with public health experts, to do more things with politicians? I know that you guys have been doing that a lot too. How do you manage doing that show, which is such an important pillar to the community during this time?
Well, I think it is really important for us to do the work that we're doing, because when we're affected, we realize how much our community is affected also. So in general, I would say that people do want to learn more. Whenever we do things, when we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about health, we're talking about politics, we do get a lot of response. People will hit me up and be like, what's CMOS? Where can I get CMOS from? Or they'll ask me, what are your recommendations for something to have at the juice bar? Or they'll tell me like what their problems are, and they'll say, what are some things that you would recommend that I have? So I do feel like people are really thirsty for that knowledge and for that access to it. So what we've been trying to do is provide that, just because we see it is like a state of emergency that we're in right now. And we're seeing now all the effects of the fact that our community is so negatively impacted by so many different things, by policies that are made. And then that trickles down to the health, to the nutrition, to finances, to our economics. All of those things are such a huge factor that we have to be made aware of and be more involved, that we demand changes.
So, Dr. Lyn, in your 8 years of emergency, in your 8 years of emergency medical medicine, your focus been building a legacy on creating ownership and sort of taking out some of the preconceived notions about health and cannabis. It's been reported that tobacco smokers are at greater risk of complications due to COVID-19. And it's been recently reported, and I guess somewhat debunked, that cannabis smokers are at a greater risk as well. This is something I am very interested in hearing about. Are cannabis smokers at a greater risk of developing complications for this? Because if they are, I might need to make a couple of lifestyle changes myself. So what are the answers to those questions?
Thank you for bringing up the question. Absolutely right. It's been recently debunked that the FDA has now said cannabis and vaping is not linked to worsening COVID-19 conditions and symptoms. What they did not go back on is that smoking in general, or inhaling into your lungs, anything in general, does diminish the capacity of your lungs and can increase your risk. But there is no direct correlation between cannabis and having COVID-19, whether it's acquiring it or recovering from it or dealing with it. There's absolutely zero correlation between smoking cannabis, vaping cannabis, and getting COVID-19. So that has been completely dispelled. COVID and its uncertainty has heightened our anxiety, our depression, destructive behavior. You see people lashing out, increased violence. We got to worry about crime, drug and alcohol abuse, and self-harm. Cannabis has been medically proven at this point to be beneficial to help those people manage your cope, manage your stress. I know a lot of my patients, the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning is smoke. To be honest with you, meditation is amazing, stretching is amazing, talking to your family members or checking the news, but a lot of my patients need to smoke before they sleep, whether that's vaping or whether that's inhaling via flower. I project that with the stimulus checks, we're going to continue to release dispensary sales, and they're going to spike. As stimulus checks start to feed into our communities, more of the dispensaries, which are considered essential businesses, are going to start to spike.
Yeah. So, Dr. Bernard, very simple question for you. I've talked to a bunch of different of my friends who believe that they are infected or have been infected with COVID-19. Myself, 3 or 4 weeks ago, had lunch, a business lunch, a very direct lunch, sitting across from somebody 2 feet from them for 2 hours, who a couple of days later tested positive for the disease. In this situation, when do you know when it's time to seek emergency medical care? There are a lot of people around there that are experiencing flu-like symptoms. There are a lot of people out there who have the loss of taste, the loss of smell. When is it time for you to get up and do what you have to do and brave the ER? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but people want to know, when it's time for emergency medical care?
Well, that's a great question, and Dr. Lyn could chime in since she's the ER director in Aventura. But basically, I wanted to make a quick point that Styles touched upon earlier. This has been the fake news Olympics, basically. There's been so much misinformation out there that it's important that platforms like this operate to get out good, accurate information. Now, to answer your question with regards to when should you present to the ER, it's basically when you are in distress or feel like you have any issues breathing, essentially. So if you have shortness of breath, you feel like you can't catch your breath even at rest, that will be an indication. If you have any discoloration, if you have any bluish lips or discoloration in your hands, that will be an indication. Also, if you have any chest pressure, chest tightness, that could be an indication. Generally, younger folks tend to do well, but I'm actually at the hospital right now, and I just admitted a 36-year-old, otherwise healthy gentleman that had hypoxia.
So what's hypoxia, Dr. Ashby? Hypoxia is when your oxygen saturation drops to less than 94%. Criteria to be admitted to the hospital, you've got to be symptomatic and less than 92% for most emergency departments. What's going to happen when you come see me in the ER? Patients are going to walk in high anxiety and concern. Do I have it? Was I exposed? They want to get tested. Fact of the matter is, right now, we do not have mass testing available. And in the emergency department, you have to meet certain criteria to qualify to be tested. The reason why is because we have a limited number of tests, and we have a limited number of labs that are processing this test. We went from taking 10 days to get results, now we're down to 2 days, and we're trying to develop a more rapid test that can be 30 minutes or less, so we can get immediate results, but we're not there yet. We're learning this disease process and learning how to treat and manage it as we're diagnosing it. So that's the biggest difference in the department.
Yeah. I'm back, y'all.
Dr. Bernard, last question for you here. There's a different problem here. One of the problems that we deal with, do we still have Dr. Bernard? Because that doesn't look like Dr. Bernard to me. It looks like Dougie Fresh. So, Dr. Oh, he's back.
Yo, hey.
Can you hear me now? Let me tell you what just happened. You just went from a hip hop legend back to your job in one deal, man. You just that was impressive. I'm a cardiologist, but I didn't know you could do all that.
Yeah, my bad. Can you hear me now?
No, you good, my brother. You good. We at home. We
yeah. I'm at.
Right.
That's crazy.
Is he frozen? Okay.
Yeah.
So then, Doctor, I'm going to come to you with this question then, because I need a doctor for this question I'm going to ask you. A lot of us don't trust what we read. We don't trust what we hear. The higher ups in America have misled Black Americans. You hear about the Tuskegee experiment, things of that nature. We just don't believe anything. How do we convince our brothers and sisters, just a short, quick answer on this one, to trust the advice of medical professionals? Which people should Black Americans be listening to in order to do what they have to do to stay healthy? Who can we trust?
So the question is, which leaders should Black America follow, right? In the medical profession, you want to talk to and listen and observe those who are telling you facts, who are telling you evidence-based medicine, telling you scientific results, who are actually treating patients and evolving with the process and changing their style of practice.
I'm here.
Now,
We're all early.
So we're gonna go to Nick Cannon right now and hope that he doesn't match the Chadwick Boseman. so Nick, what do you hope that people gain from the Dr. Sebi documentary? It's a very important piece of film.
I mean, what I've gained and what I hope others will gain is, and to comment off of the doctor before she magically disappeared, was about understanding truth, about understanding facts, because there is, you know, in psychology, they have this study called the truth illusory effect, where people continue to repeat a non-fact until it becomes the truth to society. And I feel like, you know, the people, like you said, we done heard things about our people specifically for so long that are actual facts that, you know, have tried to weaken us as a unit. And what I found, whether it's belief system and core values, along with Dr. Sabi's and even mine as a shared thing, is to provide information for your people. And do what you want to do with the information. As a person, like you said, I've suffered from, you know, a terminal illness diagnosis, but I took what the doctors told me. I took what, you know, other spiritual leaders have told me, and I've applied it to my life to be healthier than I ever can now. So, you know, it's really about understanding your purpose and why you're here. And once you have, you know, not to get all preachy, but a purpose-driven life, you'll have a purpose-driven diet, and you'll have a purpose-driven lifestyle.
Amazing. Styles.
Yes, sir.
Like hip hop is one of the biggest sort of influencing forces, not just in America, but in the world, in the history of mankind at this point. I want to get your take on this and then Angela's take on this. We've seen just recently a couple of artists we love, I'm not going to name any names, do some things that were less than responsible on social media in terms of dealing with this pandemic. Okay, what do you what sort of responsibility do you feel like hip hop plays at this particular moment, and not just educating people about what they should eat and how they should live, but what should they do? We need the OGs in this situation to keep the rest of the kids on code. Like, what responsibility do you personally take in that?
We take a lot of responsibility in that because it's hip hop is the voice of the people and the voice of our people. Like we said, information is the most important key. So I think what's responsible for us is not just the artists, as the people listening to the artists, as the whole brown community, to understand that we actually at war and under attack, and that we all have a job to play to save ourselves, to save our families, to save our community. And sometimes you got to put what you personally, sometimes you got to put the goals of the community beyond your personal goals. And I think once we all get to that point and start worrying about the kids that's under us and, you know, the elders and the people with these pre-existing conditions, and I think it'll get a little bit better. But I think that's all of our responsibility, especially the artists, definitely people, because we have the voice that can reach everywhere. But I think it's also the fans and besides everybody's job to say, yo, we got to take care of our community and people. Like, it's everybody's job right now because we all at war and we all victims. And the virus ain't just going to kill the artists. It's going to kill regular people too.
Yeah, I second that. And we have to care about us more than anybody else does. And I think that we have to realize we're not invincible. And then when you see situations like, you know, in the NBA and hip hop where we see some of our own people getting it, like, set a better example so that we can protect our own. Because at the end of the day, like, who else is going to do it the way that we're going to do it? So instead, I know people like to be shocking. They like to have viral moments. They like to do things that go against the grain. But in a situation like this, it's a terrible idea.
Especially when we have the biggest platform. You know, use your voice, spread your message, take advantage of the time.
People are really sick and dying, and people's family members, the people who listen to you, the people who watch you, who follow you. So have some empathy for that.
Exactly.
So, Koya, I'm really taking a lot of information that you're talking about and actually writing it down in a little notepad and making sure that I sort of implement these things into my own personal life. You've talked about a lot of things. We have a lot of people who they're running around after kids all day long when they weren't doing that before. They're taking care of a lot of people. If there was one thing that you could tell people to mentally and spiritually keep their head above water, one practice. I want one message, one solution that you feel like might make the days a little bit easier. Maybe it's a combination of things. What would you say that would be?
Love. One word. Love. You have to love your body. You have to love yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically. You have to love your family. You have to love the community. And that's the only way humanity is going to heal. We have to teach each other, hey, I smoke when I get stressed too, but right now I've stopped. I'm taking
Exactly.
THC, I'm
Agreed.
taking CBD. I'm not saying everyone can stop completely, but if you look at CBD, take the CBD drops, there's other ways that you can protect your lungs, but still get the calming effects of our cannabis plant that is here to bless us. Also, lower your amount of animal products that you're consuming because that causes acidity and stress in the body. So lower your consumption. Also, lower your consumption of processed foods. Eat more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's how you love yourself. Spiritually, listen to some uplifting music more than you listen to music that's like not so kind of degrading to women and culture and things. Listen to some positive music, balance it out. Listen to your spiritual music. You know what you listen to when you went to church, or maybe it's just positive mantras. Make it balanced, make it more balanced. So love yourself by doing the things that you know is good for you. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. Love yourself, love others, love the planet. One day at a time, one breath at a time.
Yeah.
And
I'm coming
I
right.
have one.
Yeah, I'm coming right to y'all. I'm still gonna listen to Gangsta and the Gentleman though. I'm sorry. I still got to get that. That's that's it. I still gonna listen to that. But sister, you were about to add to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say an easy suggestion is to eat the rainbow, eat your colors. So if you can try to apply that in your lifestyle somehow, you're kind of you wanna eat the rainbow. That way you're getting a harmonious balance in your body as much as possible. So that's a good.
Yeah, you feel good. If you feel good about yourself, you'll start treating other people good and start, like the doc said, you'll just have like she say, love is love. I got the love is love tattoo. Love will make everything, because once you love yourself, you're gonna spread that love on to the next person, your family, and like she said, you'll have rough times. You'll go through your ups and downs, but if you base it off, as she was saying, love and being colorful and feeling great about yourself,
That's true.
eating the great things, feeling good about yourself, exercising, take care of yourself, it'll be easier for you to be in a more harmonious space, deal with negative people easier, deal with negative things easier, deal with this virus easier. Pray, meditate, stretch, stay cool, stay calm, make sure you laugh, make sure you relax, remind yourself that you'll get through it, and things of that nature.
And which is why it's easier to spread the message, because when you're dealing with love, it's like no ego. So it's easy. It's just a natural way
Love
of
is
being.
love.
All right, I'm gonna go off script real quick. I'm gonna go off script. I got somebody in my ear. They got these nice little sort of devices. I'm using my AirPod to have somebody in my ear. I hope I don't get in trouble. But we have two physicians. We have two physicians on here right now. Two people who are in hospitals that are working. Everyone on this is incredibly important in the disciplines that they sort of I guess do. But the doctors, I just want to take everyone right now 5 seconds and give a round of applause to the people that are on the front lines of the coronavirus right now in hospitals, dealing with people, putting themselves in harm's way. We appreciate you guys. You never know. It is not a situation that you probably even signed up for, but we love and appreciate what you guys are doing. So I just wanted to make sure that during the time that
Can't emphasize the importance that we are your last line of defense. This is really a community issue. The community are now the frontliners as well. They have to protect themselves, and protecting yourself is protecting us. So we appreciate you. We love you. I have not felt this kind of appreciation in my 9-year career working as an ER doctor and as a health professional. The amount of donations and love has been incredible. But understand that the community is the front line, and you guys have to mask up. You have to take care of yourself, you have to take care of each other and those who cannot afford to and are most vulnerable. So thank you.
No problem. Angela, you do every every day. I'm gonna come to you real quick. Just what message would you have for your listeners? Easy question.
I would say, let's all just make sure again that we protect not just ourselves, because when we protect ourselves, we are protecting everybody else. And let's make sure we stay in contact with each other, but not in person. That's making sure you stay in contact on the phone, on FaceTime, on Zoom, whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure you stay connected. Make sure you stay in contact. Make sure you communicate with other people. Right now is not the time to be apart from everyone. Make sure you can express yourselves. Make sure mentally you're getting whatever you need to get off your brain, and make sure you have someone to talk to. There's people who are home by themselves. There's people who are, in situations where they're home and they're not happy with who they're home with. We see a lot of instances of domestic violence and all of those things. So whatever it is, just please stay connected to people who love you and who you love.
Amazing. Koya, to you, you were gone. You were somewhere. You, we thank you for joining us. Mind, body, and spirit. You already said love. Loving ourselves is very important. Sometimes in situations like this, when you can't touch someone, it's hard to express how much you love them. How do you express love, the last message to people, without being able to see their faces?
That's so important. I feel like you can express love by just closing your eyes and thinking about that person. We're all energetic beings. Our capacity to love and heal is in our thoughts, our actions, our breath. And when you just think about someone, pray for someone. Our ancestors know what every culture prays. So pray for that person, send that person love, send them good vibes, even if you can't see them. Hug yourself and envision them in your arms, give them a virtual hug. And when you can't call them or write them a letter, don't forget those things are still, the mail is still going. So write a letter and just let someone know, send a text, let someone know how you feel. Every thought, every message matters right now.
Amazing. All right, guys. We appreciate everyone and all of their valuable contributions to this. This is a gigantic fight. It's a huge fight. This is the first time in my life that I can remember where we truly needed all hands on. Everybody needs to pull their weight in order for us to be healthy and happy, and move on as a society, come out the other end of this thing with a functioning respiratory system and a functioning economy. We want both. So we need to make sure we do the things that are appropriate to get us to that point. Now, we've talked about physical health. We've talked about physical health, different aspects of it. It's now time to get a little bit into what wellness of the mind and body. Okay, so we're introducing somebody new to the conversation. The future Hall of Famer, should have been Laker, Chris Paul is now joining us. And Chris, in doing my research on you about this, obviously everyone in the world knows about Chris Paul and the amazing career he's had in the NBA. I didn't realize that you were a proponent or had recently become a proponent of a vegan diet. That was something that I actually didn't know about you. And at a time where we're prioritizing our wellness, tell us a little bit about how a world-class athlete who's done something one way for such a long time and got to the pinnacle of expression of his body decides to go a completely different way. Talk a little bit about what made you decide to do that.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Seriously, and I think the importance of these conversations, they're huge, and I'm constantly having these conversations with my family, with my parents. I'm from the South, so I grew up eating everything. You know what I mean? I grew up eating fatback. I had, everything, pig feet, chitlins, all that. You know what I mean? I'm serious. And so,
Chitlins, huh?
Yeah, all that. My grandmother cleaned them, everything. And so it was drastic for me. I had an opportunity to produce this film called Game Changers, right? And I'm 34, be 35 in a week. And you think, I've been playing in this league this long, you feel like you know everything. And then I just started to do a little bit more research. I follow a lot of the stuff from Dr. Sabian, stuff, and I'm just always trying to grow. And for me, my body did a complete transformation, you know, and just trying to figure out how important, you know, I mean, I'm sure, you know, doctors and stuff will tell you how important the mind is and stuff, but your gut is your second brain. And that's what I figured out, is that things started to change for me as I started to be a lot more conscious of what I was putting into my body.
No, we have another world-class athlete, actually two more world-class athletes that have just joined us. Kelly Slater, who is, I guess, Kelly, I can describe you as the Michael Jordan of surfing, or either I could describe Michael Jordan as the Kelly Slater of the NBA. I guess either one of those kind of works. But the most decorated surfer that's ever lived, and someone who is into health as wellness as well. Now, I live here in LA, and I take drives up to PCH when I need to clear my head. And normally, when I drive up to PCH, I see surfers, windsurfers, guys on the water, doing their thing. They're not able to do that now, and that probably affects them mentally and spiritually. The fact that they can't get out there on the water anymore. For you, how do you, a waterman like yourself, maintain your physical and mental routine at times when something so significant to who you are has been taken away?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I was having a little trouble before, but all right, thanks. Yeah, good to see all you guys. Thanks for all your words. I got to tune in and hear a little bit before. Yeah, as for me, I'm in Australia right now. I'm able to surf here. Surfing's such a big part of the culture in the world here in Australia. And they recognize that when you're surfing, you're generally socially distanced. It's really rare you're going to be close to someone. You know, you're almost always 10 feet or more from someone. I don't know that there's any science that says anything about it traveling through the water in the ocean. It's a pretty large area, you know. So, I think in general we're lucky here. San Diego is completely closed, the whole county. I would say a big portion of Orange County, all of LA at this point. Santa Barbara's open to surf. So yeah, but it's you know, for people who live on the coast and have grown up surfing, it's our lifestyle, and it's part of, you know, people connect that with their mental health, their physical well-being, their exercise, and so it is driving a few people kind of crazy. I think, you know, there's always that balance. You know, you want to be able to have your physical activity, but also not be selfish for your community. So there's a balance surfers are trying to find there. But not only surfers, just any beachgoers, anyone who wants to go take their kids to the beach, throw the ball for the dog, go for a swim, go for a paddle, go fishing. So, you know, the beach is a huge area for a lot of different people's, I would say, well-being and mental health. So we're all trying to just, you know, weigh up the conversation and the equation.
Now we also have somebody else joining us. Everyone's coming in now. Dr. Deepak Chopra, excuse me, an Indian-born American author and alternative medicine advocate. Dr. Deepak, Dr. Deepak is frozen. So what I'm going to do is pivot over to Chris Paul. Chris, since you have changed sort of your eating and your approach to wellness, what differences have you noticed that it's made for you on the basketball court? Has there been any noticeable change in your play? I'm sure, you know, we're seeing right now in the NBA, guys play a little bit longer than what I used to see them. You play, you know, you see guys like LeBron doing what he's doing at age 35. You see you having a fantastic season before they shut the league down. Do you think that the changes in your diet in any way lent themselves to you still being able to do what it is that you're doing, being this much of a veteran in the league?
No question. No question. The change in my diet and my training, it's crazy. I talked to my wife at one point about how much longer I was going to play, you know, through the grind and all that. This is my 15th year in the league, you know, and I feel so good now, and it's so crazy. I don't know if you ever seen guys after games, like they put ice packs like on their knees and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have to ice anymore. You know, I can if I want to. I at times like the inflammation in my body is gone. You know, and a lot of that has to do with diet and what you're putting into your body. So like I'm here at home now and I train day in and day out. I ain't put ice on my knees one time. And so I was going through the season because I changed my diet during the summer. So I was like, man, what is it gonna feel during the season? And surprisingly, I mean, for me, my best games this season have been on the second night of back-to-backs, right? So
Wow.
it's all about recovery. Is how quick can your body recover, right? And so, I mean, I told my wife I'm at least 20 years. God willing, no injuries or whatnot, but because my body feels great, and it's because of, you know, my gut and everything, just everything moves a lot better because of how I changed.
Now, Kelly, you just recently had an IG Live with Citizen Cope that a lot of people watched, and it touched a lot of people, your conversation with Citizen Cope. First of all, for some of our audience, you know, you're talking to the culture here, who might not know who Citizen Cope is. Tell us a little bit about what led into that conversation, a little bit about who he is and about what you guys talked about.
Yeah, Cope is his real name's Clarence, but I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Maybe people have heard his song "Bullet in a Target." You know, I've played music for 30 years now and become friends with a lot of musicians. But he's one of my sort of favorites. I like that genre he's in. It's kind of a mix of like sort of, I don't know what you would call it, maybe street folk or something. There's like some hip hop and rap kind of flow to it, but it's you know, singer songwriter stuff. And it's kind of inner city, and it's you know, a little harder message that he puts out. But you know, we just talked. We're just buddies for a long time, and he hangs around the surf culture a little bit. And we were just talking about, I don't know, we were just kind of shooting the shit. Really, we're just talking about everything from what we're doing in the off time to stay active, and you know, our partners and friends and relationships and diet and all that kind of stuff. But you know, this has brought up just a lot of topics for all of us to look at. I think as a whole, this is a great thing for the world because it has given us all an intermission to think about what's important to us with our families, with our work, putting money away for ourselves, looking after our health. What Chris did, Lewis Hamilton's a good friend of mine, and you know what message you guys have put out about health and looking at it a different way because. You know, in football, a lot of sports growing up in school, listening to the coaches and the players, everyone's like, you know, a stiff muscle is a good muscle. You're working it out. You got to eat tons of meat.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know, I think it's time to be a little more gentle with this earth we got, a little more nice to the animals and to ourselves. And PETA asked me to go vegan to start the year out last year. And I kept going. I'm not currently vegan, but I think I'm going to go back during this time because I felt better then, just day in, day out, my digestion, my elimination. So I really appreciate what you guys did with that, Chris, and it's been a great message.
We actually got excuse me, Kelly, we actually got Dr. Deepak unfrozen. Deepak Chopra is here with us. Doctor, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic. We had a little technical difficulty, so now we got you in. That's
no
amazing.
problem. Yeah, that's great.
So for you, communities, underrepresented, the underrepresented, depressed communities, typically have a harder time finding mental health care. People to talk to them, people to listen to them. It's expensive. There are a lot of barriers to us going forth and really sharing our problems with someone and getting into some of the cognitive therapies that help us out in our everyday life. What sort of solutions would you have for them? Talk a little bit about what people who don't have some of that, you know, I guess, opportunity can do for themselves.
So first of all, you know, you've seen the statistics that African Americans, Latinos have a higher incidence of not only getting sick, but also of mortality. I did some research on my own, and I found out actually that the direct correlation, not only from this virus, but all chronic illness, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, autoimmune illness, cancer, frequent infections, the direct correlation is with the zip code. So the zip code tells you everything about a community, the socioeconomic status, the healthcare providers, the insurance, the income, everything. And that's a very useful statistic to have. So what I've been doing is I have been working in Queens with Erica Ford. I don't know if you know her or not, but we have a group of young African American young men actually, and they used to be gang leaders. And they're now meditation and yoga teachers, and they're also mindfulness awareness teachers. They're creating their own music, their own poetry, their own hip hop, their own clothing. And they've actually decreased not only crime, but everything else in the community, and to the extent that even the police are now coming to their sessions. So this is an example of a community which has shared vision, where people complement their strengths and where they are emotionally and spiritually bonded. This is the secret, my friend. Every community right now, especially African American communities, I consider myself one of the minorities. All of us people are in a sense, historical victims of colonialism. And ultimately, that's the cause of everything that has happened. We are living in a post-colonial era where, all these countries and races and people of different ethnic backgrounds were victimized by colonialism, and that's part of the history now. But we cannot depend on government or these people to help us. It takes a long time to change the mindset. So we need to create our own communities. In the wisdom tradition, say, take refuge in your community, take refuge in your spiritual bonding, and take refuge in your service. If we bring those three things together, we can make a difference.
Thank you, Doctor. For Kelly and Chris, I'm going to ask a question out there, and you guys can answer. You guys are both. You guys are both world-class athletes. We're going to talk with another world-class athlete in a second as well. Like, there's got to be somebody watching this right now that's either was playing high school ball, was maybe getting ready to go get it in Peach Jam, or they were getting ready to start to shred the gnar out in Malibu or whatever, and they're going to be sitting on it for a while and not using any of these skills. Not to mention other people who are just runners and avid people into their fitness. What are some of the things that you guys are doing at home since you cannot really get out there and perform like you want? How do you keep your mind and body in tune and ready to go for when competition starts again? Chris, you first.
For me, man, I probably would have lost my mind if it wasn't for training. So I'm constantly, I got 2 kids, so school is the hardest thing around here, first and foremost, is teaching, those lesson plans. But when school gets over, we, just try to exercise, even if it's relay races. I put sort of a relay race together around the house, constantly trying to push myself. And aside from even just working out, and I'm glad this conversation is happening, the biggest thing I think we got to do in our communities is educate, right? Is educate each other on all this different type stuff of health and wellness. Black men, a lot of times, especially like I remember my grandfather and all this stuff, don't like to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? No. So all this stuff is real. And so even with my kids, I'm always trying to teach them stuff. Because like I said, at 34 this summer is when I just finally honed in on it and knowing how important it is to boost my immune system. And I have a grassroots AAU program. So I'm always talking to those, kids about health and wellness and trying to stay healthy. Because, you think about it, this whole COVID situation has really brought us all back to the core of who we are. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how wealthy you are, or whatnot. It's all about your health.
So real quick, Kelly, and then I want to get to Dr. Chopra so we can get everybody else involved as well. We got a couple more people to hear from. So Kelly, what are you doing to kind of keep your body in shape, man?
Like I said, I've been able to surf. I've been lucky, but I've been just keeping it to a minimum, surfing sort of once a day, late in the afternoon most times. I've been just reading a lot, trying to catch up on both sides of this equation. There's a lot of rumors and stuff out there. I'd love to hear more from Deepak, dispelling some of the misinformation that's out there on any side. And when Chris said the grandfathers and all them dads didn't like to go to the doctor. I'd like to know if what Deepak's opinion is on that, if he goes to any other doctors besides himself. But I'm just spending the time trying to reconnect with old friends. I have a big life around the world. When I say big, I just mean lots of friends and lots of people I'm connected to, and I'm taking the time to meet up with some of them, and staying with the family right now. I haven't seen in a long time.
Dr. Chopra, for you, that's actually a good question that Kelly asked, but I'm going to ask you something a little bit different. You have a campaign called Hope Goes Global. Can you quickly tell us what the campaign is about and what the aim of the campaign is?
Well, the campaign is with the help of Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah and I have offered free meditations, and 6 to 10 million people have learned online. So we're offering this again, once again, Hope in Uncertain Times. You can go to chopracentermeditation.com and download the program. It's free of charge. We are also emphasizing since the question was asked, what are the pillars of well-being that can counteract this inflammation and the compromising of the immune system that's happening. And one of the things we found out is that those who get sick and even those who are dying, they have something in their body called acute inflammatory storm. So inflammation goes totally crazy in the body and then they get sick. And all the evidence is saying that if you sleep well, if you do a little bit of meditation and exercise every day, maybe even walk 5,000 steps in the house, or do a little bit of deep breathing and yoga, or change your diet to a very rich, diverse plant-based diet. Rich means, all the colors and flavors in the diet, representing all the chemicals. And if you communicate with each other, even online, attention, appreciation, affection, attention, you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, decrease the likelihood of inflammation, and optimize your immune function. So we are focusing on that.
Thank you. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Kelly. Thank you to Dr. Chopra. Fantastic information. You guys are all inspirations. We have 3 new panelists joining us. We've been here to see them. Jhene, we all heard Jhene Aiko. How are you? First of all, just really quickly, sister. Obviously, we know you, gigantic singer, performer. We all listen to the songs, love the music, love the messages in the music as well. How are you holding up? How is someone like yourself that makes their living connecting with people, handling a situation where it seems that we're a little bit more disconnected?
Yeah. Well, I was homeschooled, so this is something that I'm used to spending a lot of time at home. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I was actually preparing to go on tour May 1st, and I was getting very anxious about it because I was thinking about the time that I couldn't spend with my daughter. So now, this is giving me that time to spend with her. So I'm really just counting my blessings, like staying positive. I am a homebody for sure. And I actually recently got that mirror workout thing, where there's like a trainer in the mirror.
Like the thing?
Yeah, and you see yourself and you see the trainer.
Right.
And so that came right in time.
Right.
Making my daughter work out with me. I don't know. I love being at home and I create at home. So I'm pretty much an introvert for the most part, and this is just giving me a little more time to sit with myself. I want to say I'm such a big fan of Deepak. Hi. I'm like nervous to talk in front of him. 7 spiritual laws is like
Right.
everything. But yeah, I mean, for me, I've been reading a lot more. I don't know if you know, but I've been putting sound healing into my music. My last album, I put sound healing bowls, crystal singing bowls on every track. And that's something that I'm studying and still learning, still have a lot to learn about the practice. But this just made me realize how important it is to put that intention into my work, because I feel like a lot of people that listen to my music listen to it to, you know, get over a heartbreak, or they're dealing with some type of difficult emotion. And when I realized that, I had to start putting intention into, you know, I really start feeling like that's my purpose, you know, is to help heal people through music. So I'm just inspired to keep practicing the whole sound healing thing.
So, you guys, real quick, want to make sure that we get to the next two brothers. We are running low on time, but I want to come to hip hop legend Dougie Fresh. Real quick, Dougie, you're doing something. I watched your video, the wash your hands joint. It seemed like you called everybody to be in it except for me. Really quickly, so I get some time in.
You didn't answer the phone. You didn't answer the phone.
With my man Andre Berto. Tell us a little bit about what the inspiration behind the Wash Your Hands video was, and what made you decide to use your talent to talk to people and get them to do the right things.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Puffy. I want to thank Andre, and I want to thank all of y'all for having me on here. It's definitely an honor. And I too am a fan of Deepak. And we met one time in New York City, and we had a real good discussion, and it was really nice with Tommy Silverman. So sometimes these things connect in a very interesting way, but in this particular case, it's unfortunate we're connecting on these set of circumstances. I work with a doctor named Dr. Williams, who works up at Columbia, who deals with a lot of the COVID-19 patients. He's the head of neurology. So we got together and we created something called Hip Hop Public Health, which teaches kids about exercise and having fun, all of the things that y'all were talking about. Like, you know, we would play, and playing was exercise. We would run, we would catch and kiss, tag, whatever it was that we did, but those days are not the same as they used to be. So we created a program to teach kids about, you know, eating right, and then also seeing symptoms in your parents. If they got high blood pressure and you see they got symptoms of a stroke, to be able to call 911. So this concept of thought has been taking place for a while. So I said we needed to take and do a video or make a record. And it was a producer named Artie Green from Harlem. And we put this record together because we were saying for so many years, hip hop was always to inspire and to motivate. Can you hear me?
Got you now. Really quickly, brother, because we want to get. I got you now, but yeah, Andre, real quick. For you, you're a boxer. You former champion. We've seen your fights, all of the things that you've been able to accomplish using your body all of these years. One question to you is, how do you feel like being a conditioned athlete has prepared this for you? Really quickly answer on that. Has prepared you for this, should I say? Quick answer on that. And then secondly, what do you think the state of the boxing industry is, man? Fights are getting canceled left or right. It doesn't seem like any of the things that were supposed to happen were going to happen. Just get your quick takes on that.
Silence.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think we just talk about health in general. I got. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now really on that 5G that's hurting us all.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna wait till Andre gets his connection figured out. Jhene, have you fans connect with you so deeply on a really deep level? Have you heard from any fans about their
Oh, he's back. I
concerns and
think
about
he's back.
are they talking to you?
Yeah, they are. They want me to play the bowls for them, which I am more than honored to do, but I'm still learning. So I'm kind of like, let me take this time to really develop my understanding of this sound healing practice because it is real deep and it is something that we really can benefit from. So yeah, I'm not really good at like IG live, I don't think. So I've been trying to do
Yeah.
those, but
Well,
I like these better. I like these discussions better. Okay. I think he's back.
Yeah.
No?
Is Andre looks like Andre's having some trouble. Speaking of that, I want to ask Dougie something. Speaking of that, I want to ask Dougie something quickly. When we're talking about IG Live, I watched the video and I noticed that Teddy Riley was in the video.
yes.
I guess my question is, how many times did it take you guys working with him to get so he could send the thing back to you? Did you call and did you check on your brother? When we're talking about wellness, I never even know he did the show. Did you call and check on your brother after what went down last night? This is a light moment
Absolutely.
aside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I called him and I sent him a powerful text to let him know the same as on this show and everything that's going on, there's a technology curve that we all must learn. And in that process, some of us have to sometimes go through things so others don't go through them. He was the guy that went through it. And I think that people know his intention was great. It's just his execution didn't work out well. And that was the technical side. So it wasn't him, it was the technical side. His spirit was in the right place. It's just this technology and us learning it and knowing how to master it. As you see with Andre, there's a problem. So we have to adjust. You understand? You know, he without technology problems, he or she without technology problems cast the first stone. And I see no rocks was thrown.
Sorry.
So uh,
Is he here?
so Jhene, obviously we've talked a lot about sort of some of the things that you do that really inspire your fans. If this lasts into June, July, do you feel like this will have any type of effect on your creative process? Is there going to be some point where you're worried that the artists that we rely on for inspiration and creativity, are they not going to have those reserves for us if they can't get out and experience the world?
You know, I was gonna say I draw a lot of inspiration from traveling and meeting people. So I don't think it's gonna really affect. It's gonna make people really go deeper inside of themselves. You know, I don't think. I think when you're a creative person, that's what you do. You create. You know what I'm saying? I daydream all day at home, and I transport myself different places. I appreciate the travel that I have gotten to do in my life because I can always go back there in my mind, you know? Yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, you guys, we are at the end of our show. There's something very important that I want to do. First of all, I want to thank everyone that joined us today. A
Thank
lot
you.
of information. Thank you guys. I know that you guys are busy people. Kind of not really right now, but still. And you made the time to come and try to out somebody else's life. I want to impart one message before we leave. A lot of times in different platforms and different places, we talk about the culture, how important the culture is, how powerful the culture is. I want everybody that's watching this or watching anything else to remember something is that you are the culture. The culture is what we eat, breathe, and create. That is you. If there is no you, there is no culture. So if you take the time to keep yourself healthy, your family healthy, and your loved ones healthy, you are actually doing the most important thing for the culture that you could possibly do right now. You're keeping yourself breathing. We need you, we want you, and we hope that you are safe. Thank you for watching Black News tonight on Revolt. Hopefully, I'll be back to do this again. I appreciate Puff for the opportunity. See you guys next time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Shout out to the hip hop public health. All the healthcare workers on the front line. Together, we can make a difference.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh coming at you live and direct. All of y'all out there, I got a couple of things I want to talk to y'all about. Wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands. 20 seconds. Come on, wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands. My people uptown, wash your hands. My people downtown, wash your hands. People from the East Coast, wash your hands. People from the West Coast, wash your hands. That's right.
First and foremost, please listen close. Take your time, wash. Use a lot of soap from the front to the back, back to the front. Sing the hook where you at. That's exactly what we want. If you decide to leave, please take heed. Talk a social distance, at least 6 feet. On a bus or the train, riding in your car. The further you're away, then the better off you are. 20 seconds or more. You gotta be able to wash your hands like you never ever washed them before. 20 seconds or more. Try to wait, you'll make the greatest mistake. You need to wash them when you enter the door. 20 seconds or more. Take your time, sing a song, spit a rhyme. When you're finished, you can put on some gloves. 20 seconds or more. It's very important to wash your hands. You're protecting everybody you love.
Wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands.
20 seconds.
Come on, wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands.
20
People
seconds
from the
more.
Midwest, wash your hands. Dirty South, wash your hands.
20 seconds
People
or more.
overseas, wash your hands. And everybody, wash your hands.
Now if you catch a little fever, shortness of breath, slight little cough, you can feel it in your chest, you should call your doctor. Doctor know what's best. Don't go running to the hospital cause you could be a threat. The virus is contagious. Listen, they ain't playing. You ain't see the movie, yo, it's kinda like contagious. Gotta wash hands thoroughly, even sanitize. Open up your eyes, we don't want this thing to rise. Coronavirus.
Don't you get it? Can't you see? We are living in a state of emergency. So wash your hands, save a life, it's only right. And no matter what you're going through, together we can make it right. Come on! Wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands.
20 seconds.
Come on,
more.
wash your hands, everybody. And everybody, wash your hands.
20
My
seconds
people
more.
uptown, wash your hands. My people downtown, wash your hands.
20
People
seconds
from the
more.
East Coast, wash your hands. People from the West Coast, wash your hands. That's right. Epidemic, pandemic, social distance, non-existence. Don't resist this, get gone in an instant. If you miss this, epidemic, pandemic, social distance, non-existence. Don't resist this, get gone in an instant. If you miss this, epidemic, pandemic, social distance, non-existence. Don't resist this, get gone in an instant. If you miss this.